All right, we got a new program launch. This one's super exciting.
Boom!
It's MAPS Anabolic Advanced. This is the 10-year anniversary of MAPS Anabolic. So we created a new MAPS program. Again, it's MAPS Anabolic Advanced. This one's pretty awesome.
10 years in the making, man.
10 years,
How does it feel?
Feels great. It's pretty exciting.
You actually are in all the videos here, too.
I know. You guys had to convince me of that.
I love that you were a team player by doing that. I know we've hired models to do all the programs since we started, and to
this saved us some money because
that was really the desired outcome.
Yeah. That's the truth. Recession coming. The idea was to save some money.
Sal, get in there.
Yeah.
You know?
What's cool though, what I really love about this program, and when I was listening to you do the launch on the forum, and it's so true. Like this doesn't look like MAPS Anabolic at all.
No.
It's really unique. And so if you think that like, oh, it's MAPS Anabolic with just more volume or different exercises, it's not that at all. So explain to the audience kind of the evolution or how you got to there, considering that it is so unique compared to MAPS Anabolic.
It's a totally different program. The reason why it's called Anabolic Advanced, well, there's two reasons. One is it's the 10-year anniversary of MAPS Anabolic, but the second reason, this one's more important, is that the first MAPS Anabolic Advanced the first MAPS Anabolic was the culmination of the previous, 17 years of experience that I had, both training myself as a kid and then becoming a trainer, training clients, working with other trainers, managing gyms, doing my research on how the body builds muscle, how adaptation works, the ways that people worked out before steroids became a big deal, different techniques. That was the culmination of all of that experience and knowledge. Now, since then, it's been 10 years, okay? And over the last 10 years, I haven't stopped. None of us have stopped reading, researching, learning. In fact, I would say the last 10 years, we've probably learned more than ever because of the podcast, because we've had the opportunity to interview really smart people. We've been deep in the research, always trying to bring good content. And there's been a lot of things that I've learned since then. And so MAPS Anabolic Advanced is now the last 10 years of cumulative knowledge applied to a radically different program. And really the goal was to solve a few problems and to figure out why some techniques work, why they stop working, how can we solve that, and put together a program that just blows away what anybody else has done. And that's really what this.
Yeah, you've included in this one some techniques that we don't have in any other MAPS programs, even some techniques that may seem a bit counter or controversial to what we've talked about before. And so,
which I love that we do that. And this is one of those things, like it's never off the table in terms of it being a valid practice, it just has to be programmed correctly. Yes. And so, that was like, it's cool that we can get through because we've already established the basic, general, everyday average person type programs where we're like, here's like what you mainly need to focus on, but also how can we accelerate this? How can we intensify this a bit further, but also make it a quality program?
Yeah. What's up, everybody? Brand new MAPS program launch, MAPS Anabolic Advanced. I haven't been this excited to release a MAPS program in a very long time. I'm going to give it away for free to one of you lucky viewers. Here's how you can enter to win. Leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop this episode. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. If we like your comment and think you should win, we'll let you know in the comment section and you'll get the new program for free. Now, everybody else, this is launch time. So it's a brand new program. We're just launching it. So it's on sale. It's going to retail for $157, but right now it's only $97. Plus, we're going to throw in 2 free ebooks, Advanced Training Techniques and the Carb Cycling Diet. So $97 gives you the brand new program plus those 2 free ebooks. If you're interested, just go to anabolicadvanced.com and then use the coupon code AA60 for the discount plus the free ebooks. All right, here comes the show. I don't ever want to discredit thousands of anecdotes and research when it comes to muscle hypertrophy. So to give an example, MAPS Anabolic Advanced is the first MAPS program where we really program in training to failure. That's one component. There's more than that, but that's one component. of failure training. Now, failure training, you've probably heard us, if you've listened to the podcast, you've probably heard us say many times, it's too much intensity most of the time for most people. So just avoid it. And that's true mainly because failure training has never been programmed in a way where any of us have seen it be consistently effective. Now, that doesn't discredit failure training, because there is something to it, right? Like Arthur Jones, the inventor of Nautilus equipment, was one of the first people to kind of latch onto this and see that it could produce extremely rapid results. I remember when I first experimented with this as a kid with Heavy Duty. This was a book written by Mike Mentzer, who was a popular bodybuilder in the 70s and 80s. And then Dorian Yates, who was Mr. Olympia, and his style of training was called Blood and Guts, but it was heavily influenced by Arthur Jones and Mike Mentzer. And my experience with failure training with myself and my clients was, and why I stopped even trying to advocate for it, was it did produce these really rapid gains in muscle and strength, but then you would plateau so hard, so fast, and then nothing would happen. And injury would happen, or overtraining would happen, or burnout would happen. And so this whole time over the last 10 years, I'm like, how can we figure this problem out? How can we incorporate this with its values, but mitigate its negatives? How can we take the benefits, maximize those, and minimize the negatives?
I remember you talking about that, and it was one of those where it could have gone the other way. Like you could have been like a total evangelist for it because it did produce such great results initially. But then, going through that, they started to turn into a problematic kind of direction.
It did. So there's a few things that I learned through, like I said, over the last 10 years plus previous, when it comes to failure training and how to make it work. One of them is the volume has to be much lower. And people will ask, well, how much lower should the volume be? It turns out about 1/3, generally 1/3 the volume of your normal training. So if you do, let's say you did 9 sets for a body part typically, and you stop maybe 2 reps short of failure, like we typically recommend, but you want to train to failure, 3 sets is about what you'd want to do. So 1/3 the volume for failure training, because the intensity is so high, volume needs to be brought down. And this is, again, what previous people have found. And this is, again, what I found when I experimented with this, when I had Doug try this, when I had other people try this, when I looked at the literature and the research. Another thing was that failure training didn't seem to do very well with low reps. Now, low reps have a lot of value. They have tons of value. But for low reps to have value, you got to be able to do a lot of volume in terms of sets. Like if you're going to do sets of 3 reps, you typically want to do a lot of sets of 3 reps. 1 set to failure with 3 reps just doesn't seem to be enough volume or produce enough of a stimulus to cause muscle growth. Plus, the risk of injury is so high.
Right?
Yeah, like failing on 3 reps is like you're using more weight or a lot of weight in the context of how much you can lift. So the risk of injury is high. So I also found that higher reps tends to work better with failure training. Now, the research is cool with this because if you look at the research, they find that even as high as 30 reps produces great muscle growth so long as you go to failure. So higher reps, less volume, about 1/3 the volume. And you need to also be able to figure out how to get around the fact that your body adapts so quickly to the style of training, because you do see these really rapid results and then boom, within a few weeks, that's it. Your body stops progressing. And so the question was, how can we program other methods and techniques along with this to continue to get the same kind of progress and to avoid those hard plateaus?
So now in terms of like the structuring of this program, would you say it feels a little more leaning on the bodybuilder side or like powerlifting kind of side and strength? Because I know MAPS Anabolic was a bit of a combo of both.
Yeah, I'd say it's a combination, but probably lean more towards bodybuilding. So this is a muscle building program.
And I would say anabolic actually leans more towards strength, right?
Yeah.
Or more towards like powerlifting style.
Right.
It's very close to. The foundational exercises that are in anabolic are your staple movements that you'd see in almost any powerlifting program. But
Yeah.
this has a lot more bodybuilder-esque exercises inside of it.
Yeah, well, the goal is with anabolic, the goal was also just to build a lot of muscle and strength. This one, the same thing. Okay, but if I had to like define it, I would say it's more bodybuilding than anything. So, and that's what I noticed too. I did get great strength gains following this program, but I built a lot of muscle.
There was just a few reasons why I asked, because there's a couple concepts I know that I've actually seen, like a Ben Pekulski or somebody kind of bring up, that I feel like, some of these might have been a bit of an inspiration to incorporate. And one of those was the partial reps too. That was like a part of this.
Yeah. So partial reps. So here's the thing with train to failure, and I'm going to get to how I got around the fact that your body just adapts so quickly to this. We're going to get to that. But partial reps are an intensity amplifier, because what you'll find with train to failure is at some point you need to make the intensity even higher. So long as the total programming makes sense, you need to increase the intensity in some way to keep getting those results. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. You can do drop sets, strip sets, rest pause, all that stuff. But partial reps seem to be the best. It produced the best results. It was the safest, and it caused the least amount of plateauing. And so essentially what that looks like is you would do a set to failure. And by the way, failure is doing as many reps as you can with good form, knowing that the next rep, you're not gonna be able to have good form. So it's not that you drop the bar and like literally fail, but rather I do as many as I can, and I know that this is my last good rep. So that's failure. Then from there, in this program, as you progress, you phase in or add in partial reps to that. So let's say I did 10 reps to failure on the bench press. I know that's my last rep. Then I would do like 2 or 3 partial reps at the end to really just squeeze out that extra bit of intensity. But we should definitely go back and talk about how I got around the fact that you plateau so quickly on train to failure. Well, just like there's value in train to failure, low volume, high intensity, there's value, obviously, in higher volume, lower intensity training. And this is the more popular style of training. This is more of your traditional style of training. And I noticed that when I trained this way, or train my clients this way versus the high intensity, low volume way, there were different effects in the sense that the soreness felt different. Like training with going to failure, the delayed onset muscle soreness happens a little delayed. So like volume training gets sore faster, intensity takes a little longer. The pump feels a little bit different. The CNS response feels a little different. So I thought to myself, I said, I wonder if alternating the adaptation signaling through the program would prevent the quick plateau and would maximize the benefits of both and minimize the negatives of each. And sure enough, that's what I found. So with MAPS Anabolic Advanced, what I did is I took volume training and I alternated it with failure training. So you would do a week where you do high volume, let's say 6 to 9 sets per body part, hit that body part twice a week. So you're looking at 12 to 18 total sets per week for a body part. And then you'd go the next week would be failure, where you're doing like 2 to 3 sets to failure. Now it's not one exercise, 2 to 3 sets. It's 2 or 3 exercises, 1 set to failure each. This is something that I borrowed from Dorian Yates's blood and gut style training. The way he trained is he would do like 4 or 5 exercises for a body part, but it would be 1 set to failure each. This way he was able to hit different angles, especially for large body parts like the back, but also not do too much, volume, with it. So that's how that kind of looks. So when you alternate, it's like your body continues to progress and you maximize the effects of both the pump from the volume, the strength from the failure, and you seem to not plateau by alternating in this fashion. And then, of course, the program's phased. So
this is my favorite part of the program. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
Yeah,
I've never seen like any program I've ever seen that advocates for.
It's one or the other.
Yeah,
yep.
It is. It's one or the other. To be honest with you, I never even thought to doing that, to toggling back and forth. Was there something that kind of light bulb that went off for you, or like, hey, I'm just going to try this and see how I feel? I mean, what led to even doing that?
Yeah. So the way I felt when I would plateau from failure training felt different than the way I would plateau with volume training. So I thought, they're different stimulus, slightly different. They probably are they're both sending a muscle building signal, but it might be different enough to where I rest some aspects of my body with one and stress the other aspects in the other, and then kind of flip them, right? So with failure training, your CNS, you really hammer your CNS. Like you do a set of squats to failure, and it is brutal.
Taxing, yeah.
Taxing on the CNS. Volume training seems to be more taxing on the muscle itself, just for lack of a better term. So I said, I wonder if I alternate them, if I'm going to kind of alternate the stresses and the benefits and alternate the negatives so that I can keep my body, moving forward. And it did. It totally did. When I would do it this way, it was like I would continue to progress every single week. Each week felt like a break from the previous week.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Each week felt new and felt like a break from the previous week. And then when I would repeat that week, 2 weeks later, I would see myself just be stronger. So like when the volume week would repeat, 2 weeks later, because I'd go volume failure, and so on, I would get better with that. And the same thing with the failure training, which was pretty amazing. Now with the volume training, the lower reps are great. There's nothing wrong with lower reps. So you'll see the phasing in this program. The rep ranges are different for failure than they are for the volume style. They both scale up as you move through the program. So the reps start here and they continue to go up as you go from phase 1, 2, and 3. But the reps start lower with the volume training and start higher with the failure training and end up higher with the failure training than they do with the volume training. In fact, the last phase, you're doing sets of failure in the 20s, which is just gnarly and is really interesting on how your
Super
body
fatiguing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really gnarly on how the body responds.
I wonder how many people are going to be tempted to want to carry the failure training into the volume week.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's probably I love when we launch something and then over the course of the next 2 to 3 months we'll start getting all the feedback of everybody that's going through it and the things that they were challenged with, the things they love about it. And I predict that this is going to be an area where people will be tempted because they'll just like I remember as a kid training to failure and feeling those results come on or seeing those strength gains and then been wanting to keep doing that. I bet that's going to be an area where people are challenged. Like how important do you think it is that these people caution themselves and follow it to a T and not be tempted by the desire to, the following week push the failure training?
You if you don't follow the programming, you will quickly burn out. That's just the fact. You will 100%. In my experience,
because we're flirting with that line in this programming compared to other things because of the failure training.
Good programming is always flirting with that line, right? Good programming is trying to hit the optimal amount of stimulus. More is never better, neither is less. So this program is no different. If you push failure training consistently, your body will plateau so hard that it'll take you weeks to come back to be able to progress. So it's a really hard plateau, and the plateau happens at week 3 or 4 if you follow this kind of training. In fact, Mike Menser, this was something he never figured out. And I have so much respect for him because he was one of the first people to question traditional volume training. Now, he went too far. He said volume training was ineffective or whatever, and totally flew in the face of obviously all the other bodybuilders that train that way. But he would do this where the way he would remedy this, which really to his fault. This is when a lot of people stop listening to him, is he would have people train 3 days a week to failure. Then when they'd stop progressing, 2 days a week to failure. Then when they would stop progressing, 1 week to 1 day a week, and then 1 day every other week. His idea was you just needed more time in between workouts. And it just got ridiculous and your body would just stop progressing. This is what he thought the answer was. And this is why his program, people did it and liked it for like a month or two. And then we're like, this isn't working. It's exactly what I experienced when I followed it as well, is that I it worked and then it stopped working real fast, real hard. But when it worked crazy. Like the strength gains were crazy. The muscle gains were crazy. So that's why I was like, I got to figure this problem out because there's got to be something here we can utilize rather than, typically what we would do in the past is if we took really hard sets to failure, we would just say something like, do that every once in a great while. Yeah, is what we would say. And then keep your training the same.
Well, this is the hardest part about creating a program for the masses. Like, of course, we talk on the podcast, or we have for years, about, cautioning people around training to failure. Yet we all implement it into our own training because we know our bodies. We know where to push those limits, what we're looking for, what we feel to scale back. And we've always known that basic general advice to the audience that they could train forever with never using failure and have great results. Therefore, it's a much smarter strategy for the average person. But does that mean, or does that discount the science that supports the benefits of failure? No, it's there. It's just the risk versus reward. And then, okay, well then how do we teach people how to use this, knowing there's going to be a wide range of the amount of the amount of intensity that people can use. What would be a general, and I think what you came up with this flip-flopping the weeks is absolutely a brilliant way to introduce it to the masses so they can experience failure training, reap some of those benefits from what the science supports, but then also teach them how to
check.
Just stay in check and not overdo it, which again, this is why I think, and why I'm going to say caution people that are going to feel it like I did when I remember I first got introduced to it, and then be tempted to do more of it. That'll be one of the number one pitfalls I see with people following this program, is not following it to a T, loving what they're seeing, and then wanting to do more of it.
Yeah, no, they both have value. Like when you do the volume weeks, it's about feeling the muscle, getting the pump. When you're going to failure, it's about moving the weight. It really is. It's about moving the weight and keep moving until your form is about to break down. It's a totally different feel on the body, which also has its own value. Here's something else that I realized. And I know this is not necessarily, people don't really think this is a selling point, but for those of us who experience know it is. When you're training to failure and you're doing it right, you start to learn your limits. Because when I first did this, I would do a set, like let's say squats, because that's a real hard exercise. I'd get to rep 10. I'd be like, oh my God, I think I got one more. And I'd do it. I'd be like, oh no, I got another one. And I'd do it. Well, it was like 5 reps beyond what I thought. Failure is a lot further than you think, and you learn that about your body. And then when you progress, you add the partials, and it's like you're able to summon an intensity.
Yeah, if you never stress that, you're not going to really know your true potential. And so that's like, but it has to be within a controlled setting, right? And something that you evaluate the risk reward. But that's the nice part of having a program where it's all laid out and it's already thought of ahead of time how to move you back. So that way, you reap the benefit of it, and you don't, go a little bit too far like your normal tendency would be.
No, you'll feel, what's cool about this is you'll feel each week how different it feels on your body, and you'll progress each week as you're training, but it'll feel different as you progress. And it's real exciting and fun to do it that way. And it's a different mindset when you go to the gym. It's a different kind of soreness, really hard to explain, but I promise you, if you try this, you're going to be like, this is weird. Like I'm sore differently on failure weeks than I am on volume weeks. Now, that's not the only thing that I included in this that we've never included before, because I also learned a lot.
Stretching techniques are awesome, dude.
So here's what's weird. Weighted stretching sends a muscle building signal. It sounds weird, but it's true. There's really interesting animal studies on this. There's studies on humans. There's one famous study where they take a bird and they put one of its wings in this like weighted stretch, and that corresponding pec just blows up with size.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
It's really interesting. Weighted stretching causes muscle growth. Bodybuilders flirt with this all the time. We know in studies that the stretch portion of an exercise is the part of the rep or the exercise that causes the most muscle growth. So when they compare 2 exercises head to head that are similar, if one exercise puts the muscle in a stretch and the other one doesn't, the one that puts it in the stretch tends to build more muscle. So again, over the last 10 years, this has been something that I've researched and read about and experimented with, and learning from people like Ben Pekulski, who does intraset stretching, and reading about bodybuilders of the past that use this and strength athletes of the past that use this. And I fell on weighted stretching. Static stretching is okay. The problem with static stretching is we don't have a tendency to activate when we're in that stretch.
Right. It tends to be more passive.
Weighted stretching, you have to still support the weight, like holding a fly in the bottom position or holding a tricep extension.
I almost don't even like calling it like weighted stretching, because to me it's closer to an isometric exercise than it is like a stretch, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's addressing end range strength,
because you're not just relaxing in that position. You're staying tense.
You have to. You're holding a weight.
Yeah, and so it's different than a stretch. I think it's more like, when I think of one of my favorite things that we did in MAPS Symmetry was including the isometric component in there for MAPS Symmetry. I really believe that that was a great way to introduce people to isometrics and the value, right? And then this to me is like an advanced way of utilizing that same type of science that supports the benefits of isometrics. Now you're using it in a weighted position that I think is an advanced technique, but also extremely beneficial and also something that a lot of people don't do.
Yeah, the reason why I didn't call it isometrics is because the goal is to try to get the muscle to lengthen while you're holding the stretch. So as you follow MAPS Anabolic
versus
Advanced,
being contracted.
Right. So as it's not like I'm just holding a fly. I'm actually trying to get more of a range of motion as I'm going through the movement. So at the end of every body part in the failure weeks, because I include it in the failure weeks because I noticed that it didn't really provide as much benefit in the volume weeks. But when I added it to the failure weeks, whoa, it was like, I would say like 5% increase in the results that I got with the failure weeks when I included this. So at the end of a, let's say, chest workout, you would get into a stretch position with weights. So like a fly is a good example. And you would hold that position for 60 seconds, 90 seconds, or 2 minutes. So as you progress through MAPS Anabolic Advanced, you do the 60-second one, then you'll move to eventually phase 2 is 90 seconds and so on. So the goal is to increase the range of motion. Now here's also why it's different from traditional isometrics. With isometrics, I'm trying to activate. With this, I'm trying to lengthen. But I'm lengthening with weight, so the isometric is almost like a byproduct. You know, rather than I'm just relaxing in it, I have to activate to some. I mean, I can't just completely relax. I'll drop the dumbbells or tear something. So the isometric component's there, but it's hypertrophy based because it's in the stretch position versus activation based, where most isometrics are about activating. This is tapping into the very strange hypertrophy effect of holding a long stretch, and it doesn't cause much damage at all. So it was a great way to add to the program.
It also had this benefit that I didn't see coming, which was the pump that came from it.
Yes.
Like what a cool benefit to pair that with the lower volume failure training is to add this weighted stretch component, which then all of a sudden pumps the muscle like I'm high volume training. So that was a really cool, unique thing that I didn't see coming until we actually did it.
Yeah. So you get into like, let's say you do your two or three sets to failure for chest, then you go and hold it. You're already you got a decent pump, right? Then you go in and stretching, doing a weighted stretch on a pumped muscle. You know what it's like? It's like occlusion training. There's some similarities to it. So you know, you do occlusion training.
That's what it felt like.
And you're like, you have like 5-pound dumbbells, but if you feel the waist, build up in the muscle and it burns so bad, that's what it feels like. So it's like this gnarly
fluid buildup.
It's this gnarly stretch and the muscle's pumped. So the stretch feels even more intense because the fluid's in there. And then you're right. You let go of the dumbbells and it's like you squeeze another like 5 to 10% more blood into the muscle and the pump is gnarly at the end. But then what it also does, because it's weighted, is it's also connecting to a greater range of motion. So I noticed when I would go back to workouts, I got stronger in the stretch position as well. My range of motion, my active range of motion increased or improved as a result. So I wanted to incorporate this because for the last 10 years, I've been reading about this, researching it, trying to apply it. And like, there's got to be a way, because what I like about it is I love ways to tell the body to build muscle that also don't cause damage. Because then it's something I can add to a normal workout, so long as I add it properly, that'll just turbocharge it. Right?
Well, and this has always been sort of my challenge to a lot of like hypertrophy bodybuilders type programming is, just the range of motion considerations and, what I see in terms of dysfunction and like where that leads if we're too focused on that style of training, and so to address that within the train, also gain the benefits of the hypertrophy effect with that, but in end range positions, I think is a massive benefit, which then also like fills out your physique even more and makes you even more symmetrical.
Yeah. The last thing that was added to this, that was another thing that I learned over the last 10 years that I didn't understand when I created the first MAPS Anabolic, was deload weeks. What I understood of deload weeks before was it's just a break. You need a break. Your body needs some rest. So you take off a week or you go easy in the gym, give your body a break and then get back to the gym, work out, and you can start progressing again. But over the last 10 years, some really weird, I don't know, they're weird. They were weird to me, but they're not so weird anymore. But interesting studies came out, right? Like we saw a study where they compared groups of men who worked out, and one group worked out every week. The other group took a week off every 4 weeks. And at the end of the study, they both gained the same amount of muscle. So I'm like, okay, They took it off completely, not a deload week.
Yeah.
They took it off completely.
Which is a lot. You're missing a lot. Of
1/4.
Yeah.
1/4 less.
Yeah.
Same gains at the end.
Yeah.
So that right there made me go, okay. It's not just a break. There's also you're not losing the muscle building signal. Like they didn't lose the muscle building signal. Then I read studies that showed that when athletes did a deload week, so a deload week is you go to the gym and you train with like 50% of the volume or less and 50% of the intensity. Yeah, you go to the gym and you work out, but it's like super easy, kind of, low volume, low intensity. And these studies showed that the athletes or participants built the most muscle in the deload week. So the first study I mentioned, they didn't lose any muscle. These ones showed that during that deload week, the muscle gains accelerated. And I said, oh, how can I utilize this in programming to maximize muscle gains even further?
Yeah, well, what I love is that this was the consideration because of the fact that we've cranked that intensity knob even harder with this program. Now to have that programmed in is an actual week that's designated to more of the active recovery and really considering to balance that out and provide you the benefits of actually adapting and not just getting in that same kind of recovery trap that you get into.
Well, what's really cool about this one is we built in a lot of this, like when we obviously we answer a lot of questions from live callers about some of the programs that they're going through. And there's many times where you hear us say something like, whoa, we'll scale back the sets in there, maybe pull back a little bit on there. Or, if that still doesn't work, then maybe add in a deload week for like a week and just do some mobility, like some, active recovery type training, just really take down the volume. So we've had to do this for, lots of people that have gone through the program. And then others are like, I can handle all that. Could I do more? And so this program, not only has it got the deload weeks as an optional thing built in there, but then there's also programmed there the option to add more exercises in sets or more sets on some of these exercises. And so it really gives this really wide range of the level that somebody could still follow this program. So you could be on the more beginner side, say it's your first year or two of training, still follow this program and lean towards more of the lower volume side when you have the option, and make sure you include the deload week every fourth week or whatever. And then you have the other side of people that are extremely advanced. You've been lifting for a very long time, your body can handle tons of volume, and so you have the ability to have the higher volume and increase sets and also reduce maybe the amount of deload weeks that you have in there. So it really broadens the range of people.
I want to be clear though, okay? So I don't want people to get confused. The deload weeks, yes, there's the recovery component to it, but the deload weeks build muscle. I want to be clear. It's not a break like I need a break. It is, but it also builds muscle. That was one of the biggest aha moments for me over the last 10 years, was reading these studies on deload weeks and seeing that people built more muscle in the deload week than they did in the hard training week.
My recommendation would be that no matter how advanced you think you are,
that's what I'm saying,
run the program through on the lower volume and deload weeks first, because you can always come up.
Yes.
That way you have something to compare to, because so many people think, oh, more is better. And if I skip the deload week or go as high sets that I can, that's going to be better for me. And I was wrong with that. I mean, I thought that's a lesson that I continue to learn in my own programming is I always think I can do more, and I can handle more. But to the point you always bring is that there's a difference between what your body can handle and what's optimal for it. And many times what's optimal for it is actually less than what you think.
It's the tendency of advanced lifters, and it's just like, so that's why it's programmed in there. Like, just follow it and see what kind of result you can produce from that. Give it a chance before you overanalyze it and make that same mistake that, maybe I don't need this because I've been lifting for so long.
Here's what it'll look like. About 80% of the people that follow this program will build more muscle and more strength by following the program with the deload weeks. 20% will see no difference. So that's it. Not that they'll get better gains by skipping the deload weeks. They're just not going to see a difference by adding the deload weeks. So it's not better or worse. It's better or the same. So that's what I'm trying to say about the deload weeks. It's not, yes, it's a break. Yes, it allows for recovery, but this is a muscle building week. Don't fool yourself. This week even though you're going to look at the workout during that deload week and be like, oh my gosh, it's so easy. I'm going to go and do 50% intensity. I'm only doing 2 strength training workouts this week and a couple days of just regular activity. That week, you will build more muscle. Every time I did a deload week, I thought, oh, I'm going to lose some muscle volume. I'm going to get a little bit less of a pump. And instead, the opposite happened. I felt like everything kind of accelerated a little bit. And then I go back to the next phase, and it was like, boom, I grew. So the muscle growth, the strength gains happened throughout the program, but the big gains happened right after the deload weeks when I go back to the next phase. So, and this is the only MAPS program where we program in deload weeks versus us saying take some time off if you think you need it. This is actually programmed in, and there's workouts that are in the deload week. So we actually program the deload workouts in this as well. So you've got all those things combined and programmed together. And again, we don't have any MAPS. This is the only MAPS program that has that combines volume training and alternates it with low volume, high intensity failure training, programs in partials and intensity amplifiers, weighted stretching, and then deload weeks. So again, if the first MAPS Anabolic was all my previous 18 years of experience into that, this was the next 10 years of learning about these things and figuring out these problems and creating this new program.
So let's break down week by week what each phase looks like then.
Yes. Okay. So phase 1. So essentially what's going to look like, each phase is 4 weeks long. Each phase will start with a volume workout week, and then the next week is a failure workout week, and then again, volume and then failure. So alternates. The split is upper, lower, core mobility. Upper, lower, core mobility. That last core mobility workout is optional, so it could be a 5 or 6 day a week routine. So upper, lower, core mobility. The rep ranges for the first phase, volume is 6 to 8. For failure is 8 to 12. Then when you go to the next phase, both rep ranges go up. So the volume weeks are lower than the failure weeks. But at the last phase, you're going up to like as high as 20 reps with going to failure. So that's kind of how it's all broken down. You're doing on the volume weeks 6 to 9 sets per workout per body part. So about 12 to 18 sets total per body part. On the failure weeks, you're doing like 2 or 3 sets to failure per body part twice a week. So between 4 to 6 total sets. And then the weighted stretching starts in phase 1 at 60 seconds. At the end of each body part, you do a weighted stretch. It moves up to 90 seconds and then 120 seconds. And the partial reps also advance because each phase, the failure week, the intensity amplifies. We're sending a louder intensity signal with the partial reps. So you do scale as you continue to go through. So you're looking at 4 weeks, deload week, then 4 weeks, deload week, then 4 weeks. And that's the whole entire program.
Now, I know we discussed the other day about making a big point of this in the blueprints or not. Did we? And if not, I definitely want to make sure we make a point to say it on the podcast that it's important that even if you are an advanced lifter, I would run through the program the first time on the lower option of sets and then ramp up afterwards so you can see how your body responds from that set of volume before you add any more volume.
Yeah, probably about 10% of people would do better with the higher volume. Everybody else, so if you're like really genetically gifted, super advanced, been working out for a long time, great nutrition, stress is good sleep, everything's on point, then you can try the higher volume, but everybody else go with the lower volume option. So what you'll see in the blueprints is exercise, optional exercise. The optional one is the added volume if you want to add more. Yeah. I'd say I did half of it at the lower volume and then half of it with the higher volume just to see how I'd feel. The deload weeks were really amazing because when I would do the higher volume, I was like, ooh, I'm pushing it a little bit. But then I hit that deload week, come back, and I was like on fire. I felt phenomenal. So that's basically how it's broken down. This program, I'm going to give you some warnings. Okay. And again, this is going to sound like a takeaway sale, but it's not. This is honest. Be very mindful of your form when you follow this program because the strength gains come so fast, especially in the beginning, especially in the first phase or two with the failure weeks, that you're going to be tempted to just add weight to the bar. But if your form isn't perfect, those stabilizer muscles and your stability might not be able to catch up and you may find yourself at a higher risk of injury. It happened to me. So when I started, my squat went up. Towards the end of it, I was going to failure with like 400 something pounds on the bar, and I just kept adding weight, and then I tweaked my knee a little bit. And what I should have done is, rather than adding weight, I should have slowed the reps down and made it harder in that way. So be very mindful of your form. Perfect form, because when you're pushing intensity and your form goes off and you're adding tons of strength, the risk of injury goes up really high.
Who is this program absolutely for, and who is it not for?
This is not a beginner program, but if you're working out now and you've already been working out and you have experience, then it's for you. This is not so advanced that you need to be like high-level bodybuilder or whatever. This, if you're following a MAPS program now, and you have been, you could definitely do MAPS Anabolic Advanced. So, but if you're a beginner, or you haven't worked out for 3 months or 6 months and you're deconditioned, I wouldn't start with this.
I would challenge that a little bit still. Like if you are somebody who just is followed, MAPS Resistance or MAPS Starter.
Yeah. Those two for sure.
I would say go to Anabolic first and then follow this. But if you've ran one of our core programs, one of the RGB, right? So either Anabolic, Performance, or Aesthetic, you've already ran that. You absolutely can follow that up with this.
That'd probably be the prerequisite, right? At least one of our like main core programs.
Yeah, and if you're
working out on your own and you're consistent and you're working out, consistently 3, 4, 5 days a week in the gym.
But even then, don't you? If you've never trained a MAPS program, I still would want you to go with Anabolic first, so you can experience Anabolic first.
That's on the safer side, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're an advanced person, Anabolic is so valuable for. If you've never let us program for you, follow Anabolic, and then go through that process, and then this would be the next one after that if you really wanted to do it.
Yeah, what's interesting with this is your ability to ramp up your intensity as you progress through the program. You don't realize that you can actually improve upon that. Like my ability to ramp up the intensity as I continue to train this and summon strength and summon intensity was like, it improved as I continue to train through this. One of the other benefits of this is you learn a lot about your body, you learn about how you feel during different training phases, and how your body responds to volume, how it responds to intensity. So it's a great program, especially for trainers. I would say trainers, this will be good for you to follow, because then it'll give you a good idea of how to use these on your clients and when to use them appropriately.
So I was talking to Brett. Brett runs our marketing team this morning, and we went live officially already to the private forum. They've had access to that. It's record sales already in the forum already. And one of the things I was asking him, like, what is your thoughts on it? He actually was saying the ebooks that are included this time, he thinks are the best ebooks that we've ever included on this, because of how specific they are to most people that are probably looking for a program like this. And so he actually attributes a lot of to the ebooks that are coming with this.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. So whenever we launch a program, we put it on sale. So MAPS Anabolic Advanced is going to retail for $157. The launch special is $97. So $97 is what the price is going to be during this launch period, which will end on the 26th of February. But we also included for free 2 ebooks that we're going to end up selling later on. So each ebook later on will be $47 each. But if you sign up during the launch special, you get them for free. And the first one is Advanced Training Techniques. So in this ebook that I include, so I wrote both books, and in Advanced Training Techniques, I wrote in all the ways that you could break through plateaus or add advanced training techniques. Everything from partial reps, drop sets, using progressive resistance like chains and bands and negatives and forced reps, like all the advanced training techniques. I put them in there, explain how they work, their benefits, their risks, their detriments, and then how to use them in your own training, like how frequently you can do them without them becoming too much for your body type of deal. The second ebook is the Carb Cycling Diet ebook. We get a lot of questions on how to cycle carbs, whether people are cutting or bulking. Carb cycling has been very popular for a long time with athletes and bodybuilders because of its effects on behavior, appetite, exercise performance. It's one of the more popular ways to tweak your diet to get yourself better results with the same calories is carb cycling. And bodybuilders, like I said, have been doing this a long time. So it's Advanced Training Techniques, Carb Cycling Diet, both ebooks included for free with the $97 launch special price for MAPS Anabolic Advanced. If you're interested, You go to anabolicadvanced.com, and then the coupon code is AA60 for the $60 off plus the ebooks. And again, this ends Sunday, February 26th. So give it a shot.
More muscle, more strength, greater definition, and a faster metabolism. A good strength training program will accomplish all of the above, but over time, results tend to wane and eventually stop. Why? Because your body fully adapted to your training and is no longer willing to move forward any further. So what do? Well, you could just work out harder or longer, but you've probably already tried that to no avail. In fact, you've probably just found yourself even more frustrated as you just overtrained, got more sore, and you might have even seen the progress you already made start to go backwards. Look, you're not alone. This is common, and it's the result of poor exercise programming. How hard and how long you work out are important, but only effective if you know how to apply them the right way. So what is the right way? Enter MAPS Anabolic Advanced. The original MAPS Anabolic has already been heralded as one of the most effective muscle and strength building programs ever. And since its inception 10 years ago, it's already transformed hundreds of thousands of bodies. Well, now we created the next level for those of you who have some strength training experience and who are ready to see what your body is truly capable of. MAPS Anabolic Advanced takes time-tested strength training principles and adds advanced techniques and ways that maximize the muscle building and metabolism boosting process. With MAPS Anabolic Advanced, you will see what your real genetic limits are. Now, among other factors, MAPS Anabolic Advanced is one of the only MAPS programs to properly apply training to failure, so you can reap the benefits while avoiding the high risk of overtraining and burnout. It also uses weighted stretching to send a new muscle building signal to your body to give you greater pumps, strength, and better muscle connection. You will feel your muscles working and changing in ways you've never experienced before. MAPS Anabolic Advanced also makes sure to allow for room for the recovery process, because smart coaches and strength athletes know that positive changes don't happen during the workout, but rather during the rest and recovery process. If you love the original MAPS Anabolic, your mind and body will be blown with MAPS Anabolic Advanced. If you've never done a MAPS program, but you have some training experience, sign up and realize why MAPS training programs are changing the game. MAPS Anabolic Advanced comes with a 30-day trial period, meaning you can sign up, follow the program for a month, and if it doesn't absolutely convince you of its value, you just return it for a full refund. To get started, just click on the link below.